Alright, hello. This is my video um, option for New Testament. So this is like comparing what today is like versus what the world was when Jesus was around. So um, today in our culture, or just like living, we have cars and we dress how we want. We can take baths. But back when Jesus was around, they didn't have deodorant. So imagine everybody walking around covered in dust and dirt because you also have no running water and can't take a bath every day. And you're also in the middle of a desert, so water is like precious anyway. So you don't take a bath every day. You don't have deodorant. You have like strong perfumes, so you either probably reeked of body odor or you were covered in perfume and stuff. And of course, not every common person just has perfume lying around. Perfume was like a commodity, like only the really rich, wealthy nobility had perfume. So um, that's that. They didn't have they had, I guess they had like people who could cut hair and everything, but like everyone had really long hair and facial hair and didn't have fingernail clippers, probably dirt under their nails constantly, long fingernails, unless they broke off. Everybody worked, which is crazy, I know. So, of course, everyone probably had like super calloused hands. Basically, everyone just looked really rough. So, today, um, we obviously have running water. We take showers every day, hopefully. We have deodorant. It's like we try to smell good. We also don't work outside a lot. Um, we we are basically really, really, really spoiled. So back then, Jewish culture, they obviously got taken over by a lot of different people. So Jewish culture was set apart from Greek culture, which was basically about like philosophy and education and thinking outside the box and thinking about your world and discovering all these new things. So that was like the Greek culture, while the Roman culture was more military based and more honor and shame. You wanted to be high military status. You didn't want to be publicly shamed or anything like that. You didn't want to step out of the box. You wanted to conform with society and follow it exactly. So that was like the two conflicting cultures. And then there's the Jewish culture, where there are very rigorous things that you must follow. Like they have the little hats and the beards and all of that stuff. That's like today. So like, for example, the woman at the well. Several of these like stories, Bible stories, like Samaritans and Jews did not get along. Women only collected well water early in the day, so the woman at the well collecting water in the middle of the day was very weird. Basically, she was out there to get men to notice her, which is where Jesus found her and was like, hey, I know exactly what you're doing and you need to stop. And it was not customary for a Jewish man to address a woman. Like, they just don't do that. So that's part of their culture. There's another part of their culture where Jewish men were like, they would not run towards people. Like in the prodigal son, Jewish men would not run towards people. And it would be really, really mean for the prodigal son to be like, hey, Dad, I kind of want you to die so I can inherit all of your stuff. So around the time Jesus was born, the second holy temple was standing in Jerusalem, which it's obviously not there anymore. The Great Pyramid of Giza was 2,500 years old. The Library of Alexandria was still standing, what hadn't been burned to the ground yet, and the Colosseum hadn't even been built yet. So that's like a little bit of a cool thing. So let me go down here, scroll down to where I have it. Okay, so the era where Jesus was born was governed by King Herod the Great, who was Roman appointed and was basically called the ruler of all the Jewish people. And basically, after he died, they all got separated and everything. And this is also when revolts were taking place from Roman control. The Second Temple was destroyed in 70 AD. And basically Jesus lived in a really unstable time, so all the Jews were wanting to revolt. They hated Roman rule. They were expecting a Messiah to come and basically defeat Rome and let them live like they had lived thousands of years before. So they were expecting someone to, like a great conqueror, which definitely was not Jesus. He conquered in love, not like the sword, because if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. So he came into the world in a very unstable time where the Jews were wanting to avenge themselves and to get out of their everyday lives and like defeat Rome and win back their independence. But he was telling them not to, which is why he got rejected by most Jewish people. So basically, that's not where you would expect to find somebody, that's supposed to be your Messiah. The Mediterranean and the Jordan River, the area where he was born was not rich, and I'm trying to read what I wrote and it's not working out. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. It's the desert, so it's going to be hot. It's going to be sandy. Social minorities, like the Jewish people were the social minority. They were looked down upon by everybody. Families, you had typically big families, and also was they weren't educated at all. Like they didn't go to elementary school. They didn't go to high school. Most of them didn't know how to read or write because they immediately went to like mending the farm or doing whatever it was that they were doing. And also, if you weren't able to pay your taxes, sometimes your kids would be taken to the palace to work out your taxes, or like the money that you owe, to work out your debt, basically. So basically Rome was extremely, extremely mean to the Jewish people, and they were being persecuted as usual. And and so another thing is Jews don't eat cloven animals. So when I can't remember who it was, one of the emperors killed a bunch of pigs in the temple. That was like very, very sacrilegious, because they don't eat cloven-hooved animals because they are unclean. So basically, the world today, obviously we live in it, we know what it's like. None of that. We can basically do whatever we want. We have a lot of free will. There's still like persecution, but hopefully not to the scale that there was back then, because we do have like laws set in place, and you can get in trouble for doing that, obviously. We can have food. We have like so much food that we just throw away. We obviously, like back then, like we have processing plants, we ship everything out, we buy everything in a store. Back then you grew your food, you tended your livestock, basically you depended on whether you ate or not, which, I mean, it kind of works today, but we buy everything with money. Back then, you also bought everything with money, but everyone was really, really poor, so they just made everything themselves. So, today we are basically really, really spoiled, and rather than back then. And this was supposed to be 3 to 4 minutes, and we're currently at 9, so I'm going to end it, and yeah, so basically we are spoiled today, and back then was a lot harder than we think, so.